what does success look like to me? What am I driving towards? And those things are very personal. It's amazing what you can accomplish when there's trust in the room. And when you remove that trust, it's remarkable how inefficient you can become.
And when you've got guys around you who are buying into your vision and pushing towards the same thing, it's energizing.
I think that success requires a constant evaluation and a constant retracking.
Yeah.
And sometimes it requires apologies. Like sometimes it's like, you know what? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
This is my intention. This is what I can actually do. And the two are not the same.
Yeah.
And I was talking with the buddy that I'm working with. He's a subcontractor of mine. We're really good friends, and he's been working with me most of the summer. And talking with him yesterday, and I said, something that I often do is I become my own worst enemy when things get really busy, because I continually am pushing my kind of my workload and all of that looks like. And so in my mind, I'm like, well, I've got to have this done by this point so that I can get that done by that point. And it's all in my head, this internal discussion. And then when I talk to my current customer, I'm actually placing my own aggressive agenda. Like I'm communicating it in a way that's setting me up for failure. And that's something that I've done for many, many years. And I used to do a much worse job about it. I mean, particularly when I was first married, oh boy, like hugely unsuccessful in the way I communicated my timeline to my wife, like hugely unsuccessful. So like horrible. I was like a gong show because she'd be like, what time are you going to be home tonight? Beginning of the day? Be like, oh, yeah, I'll be home by 5. Yeah. These never happened, right? Like I mean, it just didn't happen. And back then there was a ton of constraints as far as like we weren't using membrane on the roofs, so like basically anything you opened up you had to get watertight by the end of the day. To tart things up takes a tremendous amount of effort that's actually wasted time. So you try to like open up just the right amount that you could then close in before the end of the day, which you could then get to the dump before it closed. And turns out, the dump closed at 7. I'd be home at 7:15. Like that was pretty much accurate.
Yeah.
And yet I would always try to be like, yeah, I'll be home earlier. And all I was doing was expressing my wish and desire and hope.
Yeah.
And it wasn't impossible what I was saying, but it was unlikely.
Yeah. Unrealistic.
It was unrealistic. And like I would say 9 times out of 10. And so here's this little honest contractor communicating with my wife, whom I value and appreciate, and basically lying to her day after day after day. And the stress it caused on me was unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like I would just have turmoil in my gut. And it was because as soon as I could see, which was usually around 3:00, I'd be like, at 2:00, I'm still like, oh yeah, I'll be home by 5. And then all of a sudden the wind would come out of my sails, or I'd hit something that's a little more complicated, or one of the guys I was working with, had got a stomach cramp. Like, pick something. And all of a sudden by 3-4 o'clock, I'm like, yeah, there's no way.
Yeah.
And then rather than making the call, I just keep on working as if somehow I could still pull off a miracle. And then I get home and rather than celebrating me coming home, it's like, oh, it's just like I'd set myself up for failure. And I also wore it physically. Like it was a big deal.
Yeah.
And I'm still not flawless at this, but most of the time now, if I really don't know, I just be like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And I find that at least for me, I'm not sure how much better that is for her, but for me, it's like at least it's completely honest.
Yeah.
Because there's just a lot of times when we're working on the job, and in fairness, with certain interior trades, it's a lot simpler. Like if you want to quit at 4, you start cleaning up your tools at 3:30 and you get home at 4.
Mm-hmm.
But for us in the exterior, if there's something that's exposed that can't be exposed, you don't have a choice. Like you just got to stick at it until you get where you need to go.
Yeah.
And for me, I've run with like minimal manpower most of my career. And so that means that I'm just there.
Yeah.
So I think that success for me in that aspect is just recognizing how vulnerable I am to whatever's going on, and recognizing that my expectations of what actually happens are just often different, and being able to roll with that And I mean, like part of the answer would be to just set smaller goals, you know, to rip off less or to be, but that's really runs against my character.
Yeah.
It's really something that I find extremely, even to this day, extremely hard to do. Like I typically will set my goals at the outside of what is possible. And I'm hesitant to change that because I just feel like that's part of what drives me.
Yeah. It's a tough conversation, especially when we're trying to balance our families and work. Again, when you were saying that by 3 o'clock you feel like you're gonna make it.
Yeah.
Or at 2 o'clock you feel
Yeah.
like you're gonna make
Yeah.
it. And then I just don't know if it's realistic. Like, and again, I guess it depends on your definition of success, because to me, I'm very much like that. I'm like, I never commit to my wife when I'm going to be home.
Right.
I don't know. I'm just trying to have a good day,
Yeah.
trying to be as productive as I can. I'll get home when I get home. And that's something that my wife and I have always just kind of seen eye to eye on. But we have a buddy who runs a painting company in town, and he's at home like 9 days out of 10. He's cleaning up and out the door by 5
Right.
and
Yeah.
home every
Yeah.
single day.
Yeah.
And there's a part of that I really admire,
Yeah.
because it's just like, yeah, he's you know, he found his niche. He's really good at what he does.
Yeah.
He gets home every day. But like, to me, it's just like, I just can't relate to that. Like, I see the beauty in it, and it
Yeah.
really, and he's got a great successful life and everything.
Yeah.
But to me, and I feel like to most entrepreneurs, it's just like, that's just an unrealistic category, because at 2 o'clock, every single circumstance that happens around the job site or with your people or the weather or anything, who does it land on?
Sure.
It lands on you as the guy steering the ship.
Yeah.
Right. So I think
Yeah.
for an entrepreneur to be able to make that commitment to your family of, yeah, oh, I'll be home at 5. It's just like, providing, you almost need to have the disclaimer on there.
Yeah.
Providing nothing goes wrong, everything goes right, and I kill it, my guys kill it, all the stars align,
Yeah.
I'll be home by 5.
And the customer doesn't like want to have a good chat at the end of the job.
Yeah.
Which can often happen.
Or the framers don't want to have beers after work.
Yeah.
Did you ever make it home before you committed?
I mean, extremely rarely.
Extremely, yeah.
Yeah, like extremely rarely. And I try, I mean, I'm definitely much better at organizing my day now than I was, but I'm a long ways from flawless. And I guess for me, I've had to let go of that as being success. For me,
Yeah.
what success looks around that is to try to be somehow as honest as I can with the people that matter. And I mean, the truth is that if I have sometimes I have a 6 o'clock meeting in a day, which I hate 6 o'clock meetings, because with what we do, it's just like, it feels like you've got to leave the job way too early, and it just doesn't feel right.
It's not enough time.
But sometimes I have that. And I typically, if I know I've got to be somewhere at that time, I can typically actually do it, which then is a little awkward, because then the times when it feels like I can't do it, it's like, yeah, I probably actually could, but or often, not always. But it's like, but definitely on those days, I aim to leave the job at 3 and end up leaving at 4:30. Like that's like, I have to set this like super pessimistic goal, which I don't like running that way day after day. I like to like shoot for the stars and go for it.
Yeah.
And really like extend myself. And I think the older that I get, the less possible that is, because my energy levels decrease slightly year by year. Which is a whole nother conversation. But I think that success, like, you think about this and you think about who are the people that you like working around. This to me is a massive definition of success to me. Do people want to work with me? And I'm not talking about customers, I'm talking about other tradespeople. I'll tell you this, is that when I'm on a job and a certain sub shows up, I'm either like, there's 3 reactions. It's either like, oh, great. Or it's like, awesome.
Yeah.
I love this guy being around. Like, instantly, the moment he gets out of the truck, like, the banter is excellent. Like, just the feeling of camaraderie is there. Yeah. Or you're ambivalent. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
And so you're going to have one of those 3 reactions. My hope is that for the most part, it will be the first reaction is like, yeah, man, this guy is like I'm glad he's there. Oh yeah, was that the first reaction? I can that much.
I was gonna say, you don't want the first reaction. I've already ready to go for it.
But that's my hope is that when I show up and the guys that I'm working with me show up to a job, that whoever else is on it, the general, and my hope is always as well for a general is like, yeah, I've hired Kenton, like it's fine.
Yeah.
Like it's if there's a hiccup, he'll figure it out. And I think and that's part of one of the things that defines success for me is that if I'm working on a large job where there's a lot of different sub trades and stuff, is that the general will feel at ease because if there's something that is involving me and other tradespeople, that if it's possible, we'll work it out with each other versus getting the general involved in order to like navigate that, unless it's something that he needs to have input on.
But I think this just goes overall to your reputation, and part of success is having an honorable, trustworthy reputation through your brand or through you as also an individual and the leader of your company. I think that should be a part of everybody's drive for success beyond the profitability component of things. Although it is super tempting to risk compromising that one for the other. I see that challenge come up even not in just my own business, but everybody's business all the time.
And none of us are exactly the same on that.
Yeah.
Because I think in my early days, the bottom line mattered the least to me. I was young, I was single, I didn't have a lot of responsibilities. And so like in the case of that job that was a 12-12 pitch rather than 4-12, it was like I ate that, but I felt like it was worth it for my reputation. I'm not convinced it was, but I felt like it was. And for me, it was like if I can do business to the standards that I feel I need to, that's more important than the bottom line. It shifted significantly when we had kids. Because I all of a sudden had to ask myself, I'm like, if I don't make money on this job and all of a sudden I'm causing my family stress because I'm actually not doing a great job on the pricing side,
Yeah.
it gave me pause when I price. And my standard has been since that one major mistake, my standard has been I will talk with the customer, I'll go over their job with them, I'll do the banter, and then I'll be like, let me step into my office for 10 minutes, which is my truck cab, and 10 or 15 minutes, and I'll ring your doorbell and we'll go over and quote.
Yeah.
And what that has done for me, and then sometimes the customer will follow me to my truck and I'm like, please just give me a few minutes.
Yeah.
And they'll always respect that because I need to literally zone in and figure out what I'm doing. And in that process, what happened once we started having kids is that I had to sit and look at the quote and think about one extra layer. And that is, if this goes sideways, if I am not as efficient as I hope, if there's things that I'm seeing that I need to do that I'm going to feel obligated, but I'm not pricing into the job, which is something that we all can do.
Yeah.
It's like, this really should be done, but I'm not going to we'll just deal with it in the moment. Well, when I was young and single, if it took me half a day and it meant that I had a better relation with my customers and I'd be like, okay. But once I had kids, two things happened. Number one is that time at home became more valuable. It was like, now if I'm spending an hour at work, it means it's an hour less with them. So if I'm working into the evening, it's not like we didn't. I mean, we worked under the light of the moon many times, like that's been something that we've done. But you have to recognize, and I was always recognize the trade-off. And so when I was pricing at that point, I'm like, will this sustain my family? Is this the right amount? Can I justify saying, yeah, I've got to go and finish up this job versus doing whatever else we could be doing because this is profitable, this is good, and this is how I provided for my family. Mm-hmm. And if I'm just working for the sake of working at that point, that's a mistake because it doesn't align with my overall values.
Yeah.
And that layer of extra discussion saved me many, many, many times. Because so often when you're looking at a quote, you're looking at the very basic stuff. And then when you add that extra layer of like, all right, and maybe I'm fairly simplistic when I'm thinking this way, but I'm like, is this a net benefit for my family?
Yeah.
And if it is, then let's go. Mm-hmm. And if it's not, then I've got to reprice it.
Interesting. Yeah, it's actually funny because I've been getting back into sales and doing site visits, and because I haven't done sales for years.
Right.
but I can very much relate to the whole pricing component. Even when you're talking about contractors, and how you, depending who shows up to site, how it makes you feel.
Sure.
I have that same experience with my employees.
Right.
And it's just like, and that's probably one of my biggest definitions of success is like when I show up to a job site, are they excited that I'm there?
That's
Or they're like, oh, here comes this tyrant. Which, you know what, I know I've had seasons of both where the guys are happy I show up, and then I've had seasons where I know they hate that I'm there.
right.
But on the flip side, like you're excited or how a subcontractor makes the job site feel when they show up.
Yeah.
I want to have that same experience when I have staff show up around me.
Yes.
And it's funny because even yesterday, it's just like, I love my crew right now. They're so great.
Mm.
And I just had one worker that I've been on the fence about
Mm.
and shows up, and I'm just like, calls into question, like we're short staffed right now, and
Sure.
it's awkward because I'm like desperate for people to show up. But is it worth compromise? Like me being stressed out on the job site, having someone there that I don't want to be there, whose values don't align with mine. And I think a major component of success for me is going around and working around people who I love to be around
Absolutely.
every single day,
Absolutely.
and not allowing anybody outside of that into my company in general.
So I have thoughts around that. And there's this saying that I heard a number of years ago, and it's something that I've really taken to heart, and that is direction and not perfection. And so what I ask myself in a situation like that, if I'm working alongside of someone who I have the ability to hire or fire, like they're, it's my choice. My question is, if it's not the kind of relationship where I'm like ecstatic about, or at the very least, like, yeah, this is all right, like this is definitely functional.
Yeah.
Then my question is it going in the direction of function overall? And it's like the stock market, right? Like if you're trending in the right direction, because I think that life is this way, is that you have like, this is your definition of success. This is what, we're going in the right direction on the graph, but there will always be dips in everything. Like right now, when we're in the intensity of the moment at the end of a seasonal company, there are things that are going on that require reevaluation. There's times when we've got to take a breath and be like, pivot just a bit at least in order to get back onto what it means for us to be successful. But with relationships and with people that we're working with that we are either bringing in or letting go of, it's like I think that the idea of being ecstatic about everyone all the time is not realistic. Like I think that there's gonna be some people that you're gonna have to carry through a tough season where, and I've done this actually many times, where it's like, this guy is an amazing person. He's literally in a horrible headspace right now. In fact, I had one guy at one point, I'm like, look, I know you're going through a rough time, and I know that this is tough for you. I feel like we could have some really good discussions about it, but I feel like you also aren't open to those discussions. So I'm going to ask you to show up every day when you say you're going to be here and work. And I will let you work, and I will be quiet and you be quiet. And when there comes a time when you want to talk about things, we'll talk. And until then, let's just work. Now, we spent the whole summer basically not talking. And it wasn't, at first, it was a little bit awkward, but slowly his mental state improved. And it took some time because he was in a really dark spot. And slowly his mental state improved, but he worked. Yeah. And he did what I asked. And one day he missed, and I'm like, but he told me, and there was a legitimate reason. And other than that, he basically showed up, worked hard, put his head down, but we didn't communicate. Not ideal, because I like to have good banter on the job. I like to have you on. That wasn't the most fun summer for me, but it was worthwhile. And today, I count that guy as a good friend.
Yeah, and that in and of itself is a definition of success.
Oh man,
like you were
so much so.
You had him there not just to produce and put up numbers, but you were helping somebody through a season in their life.
But he was putting in the effort.
Yes.
He was going in the right direction. Overall, there were some days when I would have sooner not had him around. Like, honestly.
Yeah.
There were some days when it was just like, oof, this is tough. But overall, I saw him going in the right direction. And to me, that's key. And so I guess personally, and again, this is very personal, but for me, I if I can choose, I would choose to work with people I really enjoy, which I do 90% of the time.
Yeah.
10% of the time. And I think this relates to me in friendships overall. Is that overall there's friendships that I want that feel mutual. At least for the most part. It feels like we drive each other forward. Sometimes one person has a rough day, the other person picks them up, vice versa. Like that's great. But but I'm always leery about people that say that if you're friends with anyone that drags you down or has a potential to, that like you should get rid of the friendship. I'm really careful about that because that in many ways I just think that for the most part, you need friends that you feel like are in your corner and that have strength. And there's a lot of mutual things that work. But for me in life, if there's not at least a few friendships that I have at all the time where I can in some way be helping someone to right their ship,
Yeah.
um, however that may look. And hopefully, I mean, sometimes it's as easy as there's someone much younger than me that that's just needing some mentorship.
Yeah.
And so that's when it's an age gap, it's really simple because it's just like it's clear that you're not peers. And it's particularly like a serious age gap. If someone's like the age of your kids and they come to you for advice, it's simple. It's maybe a friendship, but there's a different dynamic. But and even those, I mean, our relationship started like that,
Yeah.
but it's not that way now. We're actually friends now. I know we're not exactly peers, but we're more or less peers. Like at a certain point, the age gap makes a difference. And I would consider our relationship very much give and take.
Yeah.
Like there's just like there's times when we sharpen each other.
But for context, I was 18 when you hired me,
Totally.
and you were in your mid 30s.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was obviously a mentorship component.
Totally.
So
Totally. But yeah, so I think that success requires constant analysis. A lot of people will point their ship and tend to not over evaluate it. Like just say, well, this is my direction and I'm gonna go. I'm just not that guy. I'm always thinking and I'm always like tweaking and saying, am I slightly off mark in the chances, or is my definition, does it need redefining?
So what about when you are heading towards your mark and your team is working with you, but then circumstances come up amongst your team that you need to make decisions on? And again, well, for example, one of my main guys had a baby. We've talked about
Yes.
this. His brother works for me in a different market, and his brother, one of my best workers.
Yeah.
When he's not on site, we feel it.
Right.
Comes to me and he's just like, hey, I really need to take Friday and Monday off so I can go down and meet my niece.
Right.
And it's just like, yeah, I feel you. I feel you, but well, first off, some notice with could we have planned this a little bit more? We have a really intense schedule right now.
Yeah.
And my first temptation, I actually told him no.
Okay.
And it chewed at me. And it goes back to the people before profit. It's just like, am I actually making the right call here? Like, yeah, it's going to put more pressure on the team and it's going to cost us not having him there. There's just no doubt about that. And these are decisions we deal with every day.
Yeah.
But it's like, ultimately, we came to a compromise where I gave him one day off. But it's like this internal struggle. It's just like, especially because like there was some fault on him. Like he should have planned this a little bit.
Sure.
And my head foreman made the comment is like some guys could ask for that and it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
And he's literally, the reason it's a big deal is because he's one of our highest performers.
He's valuable.
And
yeah. And so, but
it's hard.
But the flip side to that is because he's one of your highest performers, you also want to honor him.
Yeah. But not, and that's where the moral part of it comes in. I don't want to just honor him because he's my high, but because it's genuinely the right thing to do.
Yeah.
I want him to go meet his niece.
Yeah, totally.
And, but like, I said no.
If you're working with one family.
Yeah. This is true.
I think that those are, it's it's tough to navigate those kind of things. And the truth is, like, at least in our business, where you're at in the season is a huge part of that.
Yeah.
Because so really the crux of the matter is you need to make sure that people have their babies in the winter time.
Not in the fall, our busiest season.
Yeah, I think that there's just so much around the ebb and flow of what's going on. And I think that this is where consistency of values and consistency of what success looks like, this is where it hits the road.
Yeah.
Because it's pretty simple when the demands are fairly light to be able to nail, to make your decisions in light of what matters.
Yeah.
It's pretty easy. It's just like, yeah, it could be a bit of a sacrifice, it could be a little bit awkward, but it's doable.
Yeah.
When it feels not doable, like in this particular instance, like that's the challenge. It's like, how do you navigate that? And I think probably coming to the compromise is the right approach.
Yeah. I mean, and the thing is like trying to teach them, like, hey, man, like, people are probably gonna have to work on Saturday because,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
like it's not just like now we've committed to customers, and I'm probably gonna have to work Saturday.
But the flip side of that, and this is the thing that it's interesting because my kids are now working for other employers, and just watching this whole dynamic play out from a dad standpoint is super interesting. Because like my daughter is studying and working as well right now because her course load's a little bit light because she's coming to the end of her degree. And so this semester she's wrapping things up, so she's also working as well. And they want a lot from her. Like, they want as much as they can get from her. And so she has to determine what that looks like in a sense and negotiate that. She's doing it on her own. She's not coming to me for advice even on this. She's just like, and so the other day they wanted her to work all the way through this coming weekend. And and she's got a lot of responsibility in the community. She's got responsibility at our church. Like, she's a busy girl. And I don't want her to overextend. At the same token, she's the one that has to make the call at this point.
Yeah.
And so she's been negotiating with her employer and figuring out what she can and can't do. And essentially, from the employee standpoint, like, she has to express her values clearly and why it matters, like why she needs a day off in a week just to like recover and be ready for the rest of the stuff she has to do. And you know what? And it's interesting because her employer was like, please work this Sunday. And she's like, I really don't want to work Sundays. And she just kind of left it at that. They were emailing back and forth. And then he just emailed back, excellent. And with the exclamation mark. And I think he got it. It's just like, at this point, because it's interesting because from the employer standpoint, well, she's only working potentially 3 or 4 days a week. So let's get more out of her. But from her standpoint, it's like she only has 3 days to give. And that's all she's got. And so it's interesting. And I think that it is a negotiation. And I think that the employee has to communicate well with the employer as well, because there's also a definition to success from the employee standpoint and what that looks like in their life. And so I think that's where the balance comes in. I think it's very easy as an employer to be like, it's my way or the highway. I don't think that flies super well with today's generation, because I think that back in the day, it was like, well, I know my wife's grandpa, he used to work building railways. And he would go into tunnels and literally work till he fainted because of the lack of oxygen, etc., that was going on in there, and then get back up and keep working. And he didn't quit his job. He didn't ask for anything different. That was just how his work went. Which in today's day, like I don't love unions, but some unions have been necessary. And like
they have their place.
Oh man, just to protect the well-being of people. Like, come on. But the point is that at that point, if you had a job, you kept your job. Like, you did not complain, you did not compromise, you did not, your definition of success had nothing to do with what you have to do day to day. Was, I think this is what I'm doing. These days, it's very different than that. And I think that it is negotiation. And I think that it's important to recognize that each individual has their own parameter of what success looks like. That said, that I think you do a really good job with this, is that when you hire someone, they understand that this is not simple, and they're going to have to give her during the main season. Like, it's going to come at a cost.
So I'll give you a scenario. Tell me how you would handle this. Noah is my main short, and he's amazing. He's an absolute blessing. He's a Red Seal journeyman.
Yeah.
Roofer. Loves learning.
And he's got a great personality, which helps.
And he is by far the biggest mover in terms of my crews.
Yeah,
like he produces.
Yeah.
He's developing. When he's on site, production's high.
Yeah.
He's getting married. And he wants to take a 2 or 3 week honeymoon.
Sure.
In the dead of summer.
Yeah.
So how do you handle that conversation? Because again, seasonal company.
Yeah. Honestly, like, he's talking to you now.
Yeah.
And so super. So if he was pulling it out a month ahead of time, that's wow. That's rough. I don't know what to say to that. Talking to you now, I say that you find out what the time frame makes sense and just go with it and plan around it. Like, I think you have to, because part of my mode of operation involves recognizing and rewarding people for being stand-up.
Yeah.
And I think that we have a culture right now where it seems like if you yell the loudest and you scream the loudest, that you should get the most attention. And I feel like the only way that you combat that is to respect quiet, reasonable communication.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think that you combat yelling with yelling. I think that you combat yelling by whispering.
Yeah.
And I really believe that with all my heart. And so I think when it comes to dealing with customers, employees, like right now, my general contractor is being super, super gracious to me. Like, he's just being a gem. And I am doing extra work for him, and I will not charge him for it. I just want to do, like, while I'm letting him down a little bit on timeline, I want to make sure that when the job is done, that his customer loves what I'm done. Like, yeah, it makes him look good to the best of my ability. And so I feel like when it comes to something like this guy's super valuable, and you want to treat him like he's super valuable.
Yeah.
And you want to do that in a way that, like, he knows that it's a sacrifice for you. Like, to have him gone in the middle of the season, there's just no doubt. The nice thing about it is, if you have the opportunity to be aware of that, you can also plan to test out another leader during that time. You can plan to have somebody on the job that will be stretched for a few weeks, and you can see how they operate. And I think if you do that well, it can be a really good opportunity.
Yeah. And I definitely have those guys in. Full disclosure, we've talked it through quite a bit to this point.
Yeah.
But I definitely didn't handle it great out the gate.
Sure.
Because I was just like, oh, July wedding? And that right away in my head went to, wait, what are you doing for a honeymoon?
Yeah.
And my instant thought process was to be like, how do I convince him to take his honeymoon later?
Right.
And like right away I started like I was being manipulative, and I was like, hey, I didn't take my honeymoon for like 8 years after and I was like, oh, you know what you should do? You should just go to Whistler for a weekend and then do a big honeymoon in the off season. And I made these comments, and it really ate at me. And I was like, sure, what?
And probably ate at him too.
Again, because it goes back to, he's like my most valuable guy.
Yeah.
And he's like a pillar in the company, and you shouldn't have people that your company rely on so heavily. And it's a problem, because my company heavily relies on Noah.
Sure.
So it's
going to happen. There's going to be key people that you rely on heavily. There's no way around that. However, I've always said that if you can't survive without a certain employee, that's a real problem.
Yeah, you want people who you feel the weight and the presence. But I messaged them, and I was like, you know what? You guys do whatever you want for your honeymoon, and just let us know. We'll plan around it.
Yeah.
And he actually responded with great relief, because he's like, you man, like, thank you, because his wife to be is a teacher.
Yeah.
We're about to be a teacher, and they only like talk about conflicting vacation schedules, because they're only going to be able to vacation going forward in the summer.
Yeah.
Or on spring break, which I hope they leave for spring break.
Yes.
But
you're going to have to pay for the spring break.
Yeah. And you know what? Like, their response to even having the conversation was so good, and we've like come to a good compromise on things. And I even told him, as a wedding gift, I'm gonna keep him on his wage while they're on their honeymoon, because I'm like, I don't want you guys to stress about anything.
That's the right thing to do.
But there's like, that being said, there's just that instant, like, first reaction of like,
Sure.
oh man, that's like,
But
that's going to be hard on the company having him leave in the highest peak time.
But this is a great place to wind this conversation down, because this is exactly like, I think that a lot of times our knee-jerk reaction is not necessarily well thought through. Like, a lot of times our knee-jerk reaction is not in line with what we consider to be success. It's in line with the pressures that we feel. And so I think that this is where humility matters, because humility says you go back, and if you're doing, you're driving, you got driving time right now, so you've got some headspace at times.
Yeah.
And you take whatever time it takes to process what just happened, or the discussion that just happened, and evaluate whether it's in line with who you are and who you want to become.
Yeah.
And what that success looks like. And if it's not in line with that, then it takes a reworking of that conversation. And that's hard to do.
Yeah.
Like, that is not simple. I think it takes, and if you do that, if you make a big deal over every small thing like that, I think it can get really annoying for people. It's like, okay. Like, we know, like, just shut up and let's have a conversation and not have all this backlash. But something like you're talking about is a big deal. Like, because how their marriage starts, the way that they're able to prioritize each other, and despite having responsibility, and despite having like people who rely on them, that sets a tone. And if he has to go to his wife to be and say, yeah, like, we're not really the masters of our own destiny, like, we just have to beat to this drum. I mean, that's a hard conversation. That said, there is a component to that. Like, employees are there to help their company succeed. Like, that's what we do. But I think that going back and having that conversation and reworking it the way that you did is important. And I guess, coming from my semi-oldish perspective, I think that my conversation would be much like with customers where I'm pricing, where I'd be like, I would take the information that he's given me and say, I'm going to give you a response, but give me a while.
Yeah.
Because I think that there is the one extra step that you can make, I think, in those kind of conversations, is giving it time to breathe so that you can process it and be like, okay, what does that mean? How does that look? And how do I want to feel about this conversation when it's done? And I think having that, and sometimes that takes a few days, because I find like a lot of the heavy lifting when it comes to the big things in life, which is like, how do we navigate these types of real life things and still run a good business? I think a lot of the heavy lifting is done in our subconscious. I don't believe that, if it's in the front of our brain and we're thinking about it, we're too logical.
Yeah.
And we try to find the solutions. And, like, the truth is that for some people, taking a delayed honeymoon is the perfect answer. But if your schedules totally don't match, and this is just what's, someone's got to compromise. Like, there's just a lot of nuance here. But I find that often, if I can just let something just be in my subconscious for a few days, then all of a sudden when I come back and bring it up into the front of my mind again, there's just a different type of perspective.
Yeah.
And I'm able to see things from someone else's perspective a lot more clearly, and see the value and or lack of value, depending on what the case may be. And I think that as we get older, that should become more natural. It doesn't always, but it should become more natural.
I think it does.
Because you just recognize that, I mean, in the case that you talk about here, I don't think that there's going to be residual negative fallout. But for some certain people, if your initial reaction is really negative to something that means a lot to them, that can actually damage your relationship.
Yeah.
And so sometimes there's just that kind of delay. Is like, oh, let me think about this.
Yeah. And it could have, like, if I really was outspoken about how I was feeling, I was just like, dude, don't even think of, because honestly, my emotion wanted to be like, dude, don't take a honeymoon in the middle of summer.
Yeah.
Like, come on, it's 12 months of the year. Like, figure this out.
Yeah.
But it's also, like, that's such a selfish, arrogant way to look at things. And I could have done damage if I was very outspoken about how I felt in the time. And I think this is, like, the conversation is around this is really important, that all of us as entrepreneurs really need to focus on this, because these are day-to-day decisions. Guys asking for time off, trying to balance your family with work,
Yeah.
your employees'
Yeah.
work-life balance,
Yes.
picking customers on like the circumstances you're putting your team and staff into. There's always this challenge of like, what's best for the business, what's best for my people, what's best for my family.
Yeah.
And that's why you need to have a clear definition in your mind of what success is.
Yeah.
Because if your definition of success is the bottom line and your profit, you will hurt people.
Yeah.
And you're going to put profit before people.
Yeah.
And you need, that's something that if you want to have a truly successful people or business where the people in your business are the top priority,
Yeah.
above the bottom line,
Yeah.
you need to have it clearly defined in your mind what that looks like.
And the interesting thing to that, and I guess the balance to that, and something that I've learned over the years, is that unless you're profitable, you also can't put people ahead of profit.
Yeah.
Which is the juxtaposition or the challenge, right? And so, and I think that comes back to business structure. That comes back to how you price. That comes back to the type of work you say no to. Like, there's a lot of pieces to that equation. So I guess what we're saying is that the luxury of being able to put people before profit means that you are profitable.
Yeah.
And that is, and so, so success is complex. I think
Thankfully.
I think there's a lot to that. I don't think that you can run a non-profitable company for very long and put people ahead of profit.
Yeah.
And so, but I think one of the sad things is when you see companies that just lay off people at random, just to just strengthen their current situation, even though they could weather something with the current staff they have, etc. I just think that as much as possible, you want to be able, like, you don't, as a small company, I think personal relationship matters so intensely.
Yeah.
And that if you just walk roughshod over that, there's no way you can come through and feel like this was successful.
Yeah.
So, yeah, well, this is wonderful. This is a good conversation. And I think it's good for me at this point in our season to have this moment of reflection.
Mm-hmm.
And the cool thing is that coming out of a discussion like this, my head goes to places where my question for myself, I guess, is where do I need to kind of eat my pride and talk to people in my world right now in a way that's like just appreciating them for being gracious with me. Because I think that's a key for me, is that when my head's down and I'm not quite hitting my marks that I need to, I really value the grace of people around me. It's a big deal.
Yeah, I think especially when we're under intense pressure. So yeah, I'm definitely grateful for the grace I'm given from my loved ones in these seasons.
Totally. Wonderful. Well, thanks so much, man.